Hey everyone, so I know it's been a while, but like I wrote in my post a few months ago, I had a bunch of issues with my SD cards that kept getting corrupted. But the main issue is that I split up with my boyfriend. I had been with him for 9 years, nearly going on 10 years. And that decision was really sudden, and I was really upset that I had to make it. And while I'm not going to get into the details around it, I did want to talk a little bit about it because I actually found that it brought up a lot of cancer stuff for me to make that decision, because he was someone who supported me, my main support really outside of my parents when I was sick and when I was going through chemo and going through treatment. And that's why I wanted to talk about it, because as I said, while I'm not going to get into the details, he did cheat on me. He'd been doing some stuff online, which was really hurtful given that we started out online, we met online, we were long distance for quite a few years because we met as teenagers, and so we could only visit each other in each other's summers. And so it was really devastating that he was doing stuff online, and given the stuff that he was doing and how everything came out, I didn't feel like I could forgive him. So I wanted us to split up, see what would happen in time, and maybe we would have the opportunity to get back together. But at this point, that's just off the table entirely. Even though we are still friends and we still chat, he's a very important person to me. I just can't see myself being with him romantically anymore after that because of the hurt and the suffering. And I had no idea, and I found out very suddenly, out of the blue, and it completely shocked me, and my world was completely shaken up. I was planning to be with this person long term. We were looking to maybe buy a house, stuff like that. So it really shocked me and made me really sad, and it was very hard to reconcile the fact that he had been the person really who was there for me when I was sick. Because while my parents were there for me, they weren't the ones who was like sleeping in my bed every night and holding me, or if I was really upset, I would cry to him. I wasn't crying to my parents. I didn't feel like I could do that with them because I was so conscious that they were really suffering in that time. And so I would share my grief with him, my partner, and he would take me to the emergency department if we had to go there for something. If I was feeling really sick or the pain wouldn't subside, like he would be the one who would nearly always take me, and he would take me to the checkups. We would go there together and we'd get worried together, and we would feel relief together, and we would celebrate together when I was still okay. And I was very conscious that he needed to also get support in that time, and I encouraged him to do so, but he didn't. And I guess I wonder if maybe that damaged him somehow or really hurt him, and that somehow led to him cheating online after treatment was done. I don't know. It's really complicated, and that's the stuff that I'm not going to get into because there is information that he shared with me. And it wasn't so much about us, so it seems, but it was more about stuff that he was going through and stuff that he wasn't addressing. And so it was stuff that would fester and make him vulnerable to doing things like cheating. And while I get that, I just can't be with him anymore. I can forgive him for that if he decides to work on himself. But it just broke me naturally, as cheating does for couples, especially if you thought everything was okay, especially if you were an attentive partner who was there, who was present. I tried my best. I really don't think I could have done much more, at least from my side of things. I guess I just wish I maybe encouraged him to go see someone more to deal with his own internal stuff. But at the end of the day, we're all responsible for our own mental health and to manage our own insecurities and things like that. And I can't force him, and I couldn't force him then, because I really encouraged it hard. Which is another thing that hurts, is that I told him and I encouraged him to go and seek help if he felt like he was struggling, but he didn't choose to. And then later on, when I encouraged him to address some of his insecurities, he chose not to. There was just always a reason. And I guess now he had to face those things, and he did, and he's very sorry, and I forgive him. But it was something that completely shook me. It was something that whenever I sat down and really started to think about, I just couldn't put those two things together. Someone who could cheat on you and someone who took care of you when you were scared that you might die. Even for someone like me who had a type of cancer that was seen as a good cancer, I still feared dying. Even if I wasn't fearing dying, treatment was really awful for me. It was really difficult. Recovery after was really hard, and I really needed his support, and he gave me his support. But at the same time, I was very independent. I was doing things like making videos. I was finding friends who were, or I was making friends with people who had been sick, so that way I wasn't putting all of this burden on him. And so it's so hard for me to think, this is the man that I loved, who took care of me in a time that is meant to bond people together for life. And he also chose to do those things that really hurt me and ultimately ended us. And in that little time period of finding out about the cheating and trying to make a decision about what to do with our relationship, I fought so hard to find a way to stay with him. But the things that he had done was just too hurtful, and the way that things came out, it was too hurtful. And I ultimately couldn't stay with him, but I tried so hard. And one of the main reasons why I tried so hard is because it was a good relationship. It was a wonderful relationship. That's why I was very happy in it. But he also took care of me in that time where I was scared and sick and sad. And that really does bond you to someone. And I just had never thought that he could do that. And that's something that I was just constantly thinking about for that maybe 2-week period where the pain is most acute. After I made that decision, we can't be together. You need to go back to your country. He's from the Netherlands. So it was a very big decision. Big things had to happen. I had to move out of the apartment. I had to we had to break the lease, things like that. It was really dramatic and intense. And that's why I wanted to make sure that if I made that decision, I was sure of that decision, at least for that time period. And once I made that, the next week, the next couple of days were excruciating in terms of emotional pain, because I think it also hit me what he had done, how betrayed I felt, the fact that I felt very humiliated too, for someone to have gone through something so horrible like cancer as a young person, to have also had your partner cheat on you is just so awful and horrible. And maybe thinking that, maybe I hadn't done things, maybe I had made mistakes, or I hadn't done enough. And realizing that regardless, even if I hadn't been the best partner, if I wasn't trying my best, he still should have, shared these things with me. He still should have opened up, etc., etc. But those first few days, that first week, those first 2 weeks, that emotional pain was so severe, so intense, that I found it hard to get out of bed. I was struggling to eat. I was losing a fair bit of weight, at least in those first few days especially. But then once the first few days passed, I was okay. Even though I felt like I knew I was going to be okay overall. I had gone through cancer. A breakup isn't the end of the world, even if you thought you were going to be with this person forever. It was just the level of betrayal, that hurt was so severe, and my body just shut down. I was trying to eat, but my body really struggled to feel hungry, to want to chew food or to swallow food. And scarily, it actually took me back to treatment, because I'd lost my appetite. I didn't want to eat. I was struggling to keep weight on, even though this experience was only over a few days to a week. It still threw me back to that time, feeling really miserable, feeling really sad, and feeling like my body was, I guess, a bit disconnected from me, that it was kind of betraying me, my body, even though obviously he's the one who betrayed me. But that flow and effect of not being able to eat, not wanting to do exercise, not wanting to leave the room, feeling really heavy, feeling low, all that kind of stuff took me back. And that was quite traumatic in itself. And it's something that when I went to a counselor or a psychologist, I talked a lot about. I talked about how part of what's scary about this breakup is how those first few days after, I felt like I was back in treatment. And then, of course, thinking about that, feeling that way, having the conscious thought, reminds me of that first few days after, chemotherapy, also made me feel awful, because I'm like, he's meant to be here. He's meant to be here to help me and just hold me and comfort me and make me feel loved and secure. And he's not here. Like, that's the whole reason why I'm feeling awful, is because he's not here and I can't be with him anymore. And so naturally, life sucked. In March, April, when this all happened and I did the break, and you know, those first few weeks were really hard. But I still went to placement and did my placements, and things got better pretty quickly, in the sense that things overall were okay pretty quickly, just because I know that I'm a very resilient person. I have gone through cancer. Even before cancer, I knew that I was a resilient person. I know that's in my nature, at least I believe that to be a big part of my personality. So I know that I can handle anything in life, no matter how awful or horrible, I'll get through it. And so I was still, you know, able to go to work. I might have taken a few days off, but I found the distraction good. And over time, I've just been able to heal, trying to be a bit more creative. But obviously after such a traumatic experience, it's hard to be in a good, healthy headspace to be creative. Over June, July, I went overseas to Spain for 6 weeks to see my family. My cousin had a wedding in the Canary Islands, so that was amazing to go back to that home and be there with family and my cousins, and connect with that part of myself, especially once I felt quite shattered and low. And then I went down to the south of Spain and just enjoyed some time alone by myself there, just wandering the streets, going to some advanced Spanish classes to brush up on my Spanish, and just reading books in plazas and in gardens and in courtyards, and just to remind me that I'm going to be fine, that it's all going to be okay. I already felt okay, but up until that point I'd been really go between the breakup, dealing stuff with the apartment, moving back in with my parents, trying to figure out placement stuff, which is, I need to make a different video about that, because in the midst of this breakup and finding out this horrible news, I was going through really bad side effects with my eyes, because I was in a very intense placement and I was straining my eyes a lot. But I'll talk about that in a different video, because if not, this video will get too long. But so from that breakup, then moving into my parents' place, dealing with all of our stuff, dealing with the split, dealing with this placement, a lot of my side effects. I was looking forward to this Spain trip so much, so I could just relax, process. And I think this trauma bonding thing that I found so hard to realize, that someone can be bonded to someone else through a traumatic experience, and that person can still do awful things or can still cheat on you. Like, of course that can happen. Of course, I know that. In theory, but it's such a different experience to be in that, to feel that love, to be in something so long term, to have them talking to you and you both talking to each other about long-term plans, reflecting on a really bad experience and feeling like you're stronger together, to realize that they're still doing something like cheating. It's so hard to reconcile those two ideas. That's where a lot of my grief and my crying came from, trying to understand how one of the greatest acts of love can also come from the same person who decides to cheat on you. That's so hard. And it's even his father had even said to us, like, oh, wow, you guys are going through this really awful thing. But, it's something that couples normally will go through maybe when they're a lot older, go through some difficult illness of some sort and support each other in it. But you guys are going to be stronger together for it, bonded together for it, more for it. And I think I also believe that. I think I believe that overall, but obviously it doesn't always happen, and people are complicated, and we're also young, and we've been together since we were teenagers, and it's all complicated. Apart from sadness, the greatest emotion, or the thing that I feel the most, is confusion. Absolute confusion. I just don't understand. It's really hard to make sense of it, but it happened. We dealt with it. I dealt with it. I know we're going to live happy lives. We're going to find wonderful partners who probably or might have made us happier. Maybe we just weren't meant to be. We're going to find people who make us more happy, who are more compatible with us. And that's a really exciting idea. I just wish he hadn't cheated on me. I wish he'd just ended it and I didn't have to kind of process that trauma, especially with the bringing up a lot of the cancer trauma stuff too. Okay, I'm gonna finish the video here. Thank you for watching. I hope you've all been well and taking care of yourselves. I hope this video gives a bit of an explanation as to where I've been and why I haven't been posting. I have another video that I want to make really soon, that one about my severe side effects that I had at the first start of the year. But then I hope to just get into a bit more of a regular schedule. I do plan to continue making videos. My head was just, you know, my mind was destroyed with that news around cheating and the breakup and everything that followed. So I'm back, I'm feeling okay, and I hope you guys are all feeling okay. All right, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.